Students, so your project has come out of the kiln. Let's go over some review of glazing. You'll need a mat for sanding and glazing. We're going to use the Glaze mats for sanding and glazing. So grab a mat. Then you're going to go over to this red box that says paper clips. That's right, or job clips, sorry. And you're going to get some sandpaper, because why not make it more confusing? Take some sandpaper to your place, and then you're going to actually sand. This is just me demonstrating how to sand. So you're going to sand on the outside, the bottom, underneath. You're going to try to make it smooth. Remember, people are touching these, interacting with them. You're going to be interacting with them. You want them really smooth, especially things that you're going to be eating or drinking off. Anything that you're going to be touching or handling needs to not scratch you or cut you. So really sand away. You'll want to make sure that this is really well done so that your glaze will attach to your work. Once you're done with that, then what we're going to do is make sure I will check everything to make sure that it's good and that you're ready, that there's nothing I can't find. And then if there is, you'll sand it. If not, you'll go on to the next steps, which is glazing, which means we need to put away the sandpaper. Once we put away the sandpaper, we can look for any bad ones and throw those away because we don't need them. There we go. Move things back to make them more organized. Then what we're going to do is grab a wet sponge. So what we need to do is come over here, find the sponges, and then we got to get it wet. So we'll go over to the sink and wring it out. And then make sure it's over the bucket so that we're not getting any of the clay dust down the pipes. These buckets have been working really well. Wring it out so it's not dripping all over the floor. There we go. Squeezing it tight to make sure there's no water in there. If it's too wet, your project will take too long to dry, and you will have to wait because that clay body, that bisque fire clay, is absorbing all that water. And so it is absorbing it, and we're wiping off any dust. And so we have to wait for all that water we put on there to dry off. So we're getting off all the dust on the outside. We're going to get off all the dust on the inside. This is a great time just to make sure. If your sponge dries out, guess what? Go back, wring it out. There you go. Rinse it and wring it out completely so it's not sopping wet. That way your project doesn't take forever to dry and you can get on to glazing. So go back and you're going to sponge everything. Get every little nook and cranny. Think of it as an English muffin. The more you get into the nooks and cranny of this thing, the better your glaze is going to stay on there. You're going to do it for every project. Every project, whether it's someone that someone's going to drink off of or something that you're just handling where you're going to wipe off all the dust. Even on the places that are hard to reach, we have to get the sponge there. So it might take a couple times of going back and forth and making sure that it's wet and dried out. So this might be our very last time. Oh, it was. So now we can put it away. Nice clean sponge for someone else to use. Now we're just going to wait for it to dry. While we wait for it to dry, we can pick out our glaze. Now, we'll need a brush, and here's some brushes. So pick a brush for the job, big brush for a big job, small brush for a small job, those type of things. I'm going to only work on one project at a time, use one color at a time. I can't use all of them, so I'm just going to do one color at a time. So first thing is undoing the lid, putting our handle in there, and mixing it up thoroughly. Remember, it settles. The glass is at the bottom, and you got to stir it up into the pigment, the slip, the clay body, and you got to mix it in really good, and we don't want to shake it because we don't want air in it because air makes pockets in the glaze. So we stir that up really good, get a paper towel, wipe off the extra glaze back into the bottle so we don't waste it. There we go. Now I'm going to put my brush into the glaze and make sure that I'm not getting it all over the metal part that holds the bristles, and then I'm going to paint carefully. Paint carefully, making sure I fill in all the nooks and crannies. If I have an inside that needs to be glazed, I'm going to do that first because it's going to be easier to work from the inside out. That's cups, that's mugs, anything like that. Start with the inside first. Think about the bottom and then working your way out. Try to get all the nooks and crannies down there. You might have to use your brush at a different angle. You might need a different brush for it. You don't want to put on tons of glaze because that's going to make your mug heavier. Important note, if you are making anything for someone to eat off of, drink out of, you need to have 3 coats on there. 3 coats of glaze. So this is my first glaze at the bottom. And I spilled something, so I can get that off with a wet paper towel. You can erase glaze with wet paper towel. But that first bottom right there, that first green spot on the bottom is 1 layer. And I gotta wait for it to completely dry. It'll become chalky looking. And that's when I know it's dry. Then I can put on another layer. This is how we can mix paint and glaze too. We can put a color over another one, but they have to be fully dried before you do it. Now, another thing is we need to paint close to the bottom, but not all the way to the bottom. So what I do is paint all the way to the bottom. That's just what I do. I just take my paintbrush, paint all the way to the bottom so it's nice and evenly coated all the way. I even sometimes get glaze on the bottom of my project. Now, I told you not to do that, right? Well, here's the thing. We are responsible. We're going to clean this up. So as I'm glazing towards the bottom of this, I know I need about a pinky's width or finger's width from the bottom so it doesn't glaze onto the shelf. So I'll just put my finger there, and I'm just going to clean off the edge with a wet paper towel, and that is going to give me a nice crisp line so it doesn't look all weird, and I can go back and touch it up, but then I know that it's not going to touch the bottom of the shelf and then fuse to the shelf. Remember, because glaze is glass with slip and water, and so it's going to make a permanent fusion to this mug, and anything that's on the bottom of your project is going to fuse to the shelf. So you got to make sure you wipe that off with a wet paper towel before you put it on the shelf for the next glaze firing. All right? So after that, it is cleaning up as normal, wiping off the brushes, and then putting the lids back onto the glaze, making sure the glaze gets back to where it's going. Make sure that it's in the right place so that other people can find it. Then you're going to go to the sink. You're going to wash it out really quickly, and then you can just squeeze dry it right there. You can use a paper towel if you like. Then put this back in the ceramic brushes where they go, and then clean up your space like always. Can't wait to see your projects glazed.